Okay, and we're back with part 2 of our video talking about the Asia Electric G SIG Sauer M17 or F17 as the model number is, gas blowback airsoft pistol, unlicensed version. So talking about the slide, so you have nice cocking serrations on the front and rear. See here both sides. You have a fake extractor, which is a separate piece, and if you can just see it here, this little piece here, which is cast into the slide on the real steel, would be a loaded chamber indicator, but this is not a separate piece, it's just part of the slide. So front sights, we have a nice white dot front sight and a nice 2 white dot rear sight. So I do like the sight picture this gives. I am a fan of white dot sights. The front sight is fairly narrow. It gives you a good amount of light on either side, so you can get a quite fast sight picture with this. Now, just like the real steel, this plate is removable. Unlike most other pistols, it's not screwed in from the top. There are screws from the bottom, so you have to remove the slide, take out the screws, you can remove it. It should then be possible to fit some sort of mini red dot sight. As of the moment, no one is sure exactly which of the airsoft sights will fit this airsoft pistol. For the real steel, US military M17, it is spec'd to fit to the Leopold Delta Point Pro. The civilian versions of the SIG P320, the ones which have slide cuts, are spec'd to fit the SIG Romeo sight. I think it's Romeo 3, I'm not sure exactly. So just looking at the manual, we can see here that this plate is held on, as with most airsoft guns, by 2 screws from underneath, which actually hold in the blowback unit. Interestingly enough, this plate is actually 2 pieces. The actual sight portion with the dot, which has the 2 white dots, actually can remove. So possibly, even if you fit a red dot, you may be able to screw that little sight section back. I don't think it would be real steel accurate to do that. But anyway, these are low sights, so if you do put a mini red dot sight on there, it will not co-witness because the sights are not high enough. You'd need suppressor height sights. Another good thing is you can see the front sight is actually held in place by a little grub screw from underneath. I'm always worried about airsoft pistols which don't screw in the front sight. So, they just have it dovetailed in about the sight getting lost. So that shouldn't happen in this case. Right, so let's go into takedown of the pistol. So, as we showed before, lock back the slide, rotate this really sexy, nice takedown lever. I really like that for some reason. Push the slide forward off the gun. And then, so here we have our lower receiver. So this is the internal chassis which holds the fire control components, trigger bar, hammer, sear, etc. So not entirely like the real steel, because the real steel, you just have to pull out the takedown lever and then you can lift out the fire control component, the chassis. With this WE version, there is one extra step. There is a screw here that you need to unscrew, but it's only one extra step. I have heard the officially licensed SIG Sauer M17 airsoft pistol, which is being OEM'd by WE, doesn't have this screw, so their version of the internal chassis will remove like the real steel, which is just take out the takedown lever, pull it out, but we shall see. Anyway, the officially licensed VFC SIG Sauer M17, I've heard, has been delayed until around May, so we will have to wait. So we're going to take down of this in a minute. So just talking about the slide quickly. So pretty standard internals. So metal recoil spring rod just removes as normal. Inner and outer barrel, slide forward, tilt down, pull them out. So you can see the outer barrel, if the camera will focus. Okay, sorry, I had a little technical malfunction. The tripod fell over there. So if the camera will focus, we can see it says 9 mm times 19 for the real steel caliber markings. There we go. No marking on the top. So inner barrel just removes, and this is pretty standard. 2 halves held together by 2 screws. Your hop-up adjustment wheel is here. You have hop marking with the arrow telling you which way is more hop. So this should take standard gas blowback pistol rubbers. I'm probably going to replace this with a maple leaf at some point. I will say on the smaller gun, I did have trouble taking out these screws. The first screw came out no problem. The second screw, it would just not budge. Even I heated it for quite a long time with a cigarette lighter to try and get rid of any thread locker or Loctite glue. I just could not remove that screw. I haven't tried this yet. I will do it at some later stage. I haven't really shot this pistol yet. So, here's our slide. This was supplied with quite a lot of grease on it, which is okay. So nozzle moves freely. If you can see inside, there are the 2 screws holding in the rear sight plate and the blowback unit. And if we can just see it there, you can probably maybe just see the little grub screw which holds in the front sight. So that's pretty standard. And as I said, no reinforcing plate inside. Sorry, tripod malfunction again. Teach me to get a shitty ass tripod. No reinforcing plate for the slide stop notch here. So if you do drop your slide a lot, this eventually will start wearing. Yay, camera finally decides to focus. Okay, so that's our slide. All right, so what we're going to do, reassemble that. Pretty standard. Barrel back in. Recoil spring back in. All right, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to take out this internal chassis. So just give me a second. Okay, so we use a screwdriver here. Phillips head screwdriver. Take out this screw. Make sure not to lose it. Okay, we then wiggle this takedown lever out. It's always tricky doing this on camera because you're not actually looking at the gun directly, kind of looking at the phone to keep the gun on the screen. So that's out. Right now, all we do now, grab the front rails and just lift it out like this. Okay, let's see. Okay, and there we go, and that's our internal chassis out. So we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. So the receiver, low frame, whatever you want to call it, the only working parts now are the magazine release. I'm hoping WE or some aftermarket manufacturers release a full marking version for this, or different variants. As we said, this is the medium size. I'm hoping they release the large size or smaller size for people with smaller or larger hands. And also, you know, the compact, subcompact, the competition versions, etc. That would be really nice. Or even there's some real steel manufacturers in the States releasing carbine kits that you can just drop the internal chassis into. Anyway, internal chassis. So trigger bar, safety, hammer, etc. When handling this, the trigger can come out, so I kind of recommend just holding the middle of the trigger bar here, which stops it from, you know, disengaging here and disengaging here. Hammer there, safety,